Welcome back. We are now hearing that there is massive selling underway in the markets. The selling is intensifying. The US sold their Bitcoin, but meanwhile, alt season is here. Arthur Hayes envisions a highly anticipated monster altcoin season for many of the major altcoins, and we're going to be discussing all of this in today's video, including the top is in for Bitcoin. It's not just me saying this. Now the market is showing it, and the market sentiment, the market news, and the market analysts are showing us where the cycle is. Whether you want to do anything with that or not, that's up to you in your portfolio. But in today's video, we're going to be exploring why the US sold their Bitcoin, when this occurred, how this is going to impact the price of Bitcoin, and really what the trade is now, because you can still make a lot of money as Bitcoin has topped out this cycle so far. Don't forget to give this video a free thumbs up. We upload every single day on this channel to bring you the latest happening in the financial world, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Give the video a free thumbs up right down below, and let's get into it. Chim Zhu on X says, the cycle top is in, and it's obvious. Well, clearly they've been watching the Cryptoviser podcast, because we have been talking about where we are in the cycle in the middle of 2025 for quite a while. And people, I don't know, they don't want to realize maybe that we are at the top of the market for Bitcoin, and that the trade of Bitcoin is exhausted, right? This whole narrative around Bitcoin strategy, MicroStrategy, who cares, right? We've been hearing about this for 2 years, and the price of Bitcoin has barely moved. But we're also hearing about the U.S. government selling their Bitcoin. But before we get to that, Chim Zhu continued on X saying, clearest the lower highs I've seen in days. We've cleared the W bottom, went out, took out late shorts. Now it's time for the real leg down to commence. He said he's max short across the board. Bulls will finally come to their senses when the liquidations begin to roll in. Now, I don't completely disagree with what Chim Zhu is saying here. First of all, we've been talking about the lower highs and lower lows on this channel for quite a while, specifically with Bitcoin, not the altcoins, specifically with Bitcoin. And I was telling my viewers back at like 108, 110, that the dip that we saw to $98,000 from $110,000, that was like a 10% move, which in Bitcoin is not really that much. But everybody was like, oh, yep, there was capitulation. There was our dip, buy the dip. And I'm like, wait, that's not really a dip. A dip is, we would go to like 70,000, 60,000, 50,000. People are like, no, Cryptoviser, we're in a bull market. We're not going to see dips like that. I'm like, that sentiment alone tells me we're at the top of the market. And so, yeah, we are in a, you can clearly see potentially a head and shoulders pattern, or as Chim Zhu calls it, the W bottom. And yeah, lower highs, lower lows indicate a bearish trend in the market. Chim Zhu says the cycle top is in. It's hard to accept right now. Mass adoption is here. The market is over leveraged, euphoric, distorted. Zero is inevitable. And I would agree with this. You know, before we get to the Coinbase stuff, I would agree that at the end of the day, you know, the sentiment in the market is just like, oh no, like we're right there. We're just starting the bull market. I mean, BitPain wrote this. We're 15 months post halving, which, by the way, if you guys follow my channel, you know that the 12 to 18 month time frame after the Bitcoin halving is the most volatile, and is basically where we see the most movement in the market to the upside. But that's also an indicator of the end of the bull market, right? So we're 15 months post halving with new ETFs, massive corporate adoption, Saylor bidding like an ape, banks can custody Bitcoin, Gensler is gone, and Senator Warren is out. We have a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Powell is gonna resign. We haven't cracked the gold adjusted all-time high, but sure, $120,000 was the top. Yeah, it probably was, because everything that you're saying in here is not an indicator that we're starting the bull market, right? New ETFs. What new ETFs? Solana, XRP. Again, when who are they buying these coins from? They're buying them through private sales, through like XRP. Where do you think they're getting the XRP from? You selling your coins on Coinbase or Kraken or Binance? No. They're getting their XRP directly from Ripple through their escrow because Ripple says that they're going to continue to sell their XRP to raise money to continue development, and I don't think there's a problem with that, especially if you know what they're doing. Why is the price of XRP actually going up? And why would it continue to go up? Massive corporate adoption. Yeah, but massive corporate adoption was already here. It's been here for over a year and a half now. The ETF started over a year and a half ago. Sailor bidding like an ape. Well, he continues to bid like an ape, but he's been doing this. It's not like this is new narrative. Again, this is exhausted narratives about Bitcoin. Banks can custody Bitcoin. They've been able to custody Bitcoin. Fidelity has been doing it for years. Gensler's gone. Okay, we have a strategic Bitcoin reserve. No, we don't. And we're about to get into that in just a minute. Powell's going to resign. We don't know that. That's not 100%. So again, the market is, I agree with Chim Zhu, the market is over-leveraged, euphoric, and distorted, specifically with Bitcoin. Now we're starting to see the transition out of Bitcoin, and it's about to accelerate. But before we go there, and by the way, we are talking about XRP, Internet Computer Protocol, as well in today's video, so make sure you guys stick around. But before we go to the other stuff, I don't know if you guys saw this, but Coinbase just rebranded their base app, and now they're calling it the base app or something like that. But a lot of people miss like what's going on here. Coinbase is creating universal sign-in for the open internet is what they call it, right? Now we do know other ecosystems are doing the same type of thing. Like Internet Computer has Internet Computer Identity, so you can sign on to multiple different dApps or applications using your Internet Computer Identity. But now Coinbase is kind of expanding this a little bit further, and my take on it is this is digital identity. This part of the presentation, I'm not going to show you the whole thing because it's like 3 minutes long, but it says move money, bring your identity wherever you go, own your social graph, use markets 24/7, chat with your friends, all in the base app. This person who is the head of engineering at Coinbase Wallet said when everything runs on a shared and open rails, you start to from an infinite toolbox made by millions of builders like you. And I'm not against this. I'm just, it does seem very close to digital identity. I mean, connecting your finances with your social, with your messaging. I don't know. It just seems like there are so many layers that could go wrong there, and having kind of decentralized apps where different apps do different things, it kind of spreads out that risk, right, of these hacks, especially when you're talking about money. A lot of people don't necessarily want like their net worth being like, hacked and leaked. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But yeah, Coinbase seems to be kind of doing a lot at this point. And, this massive expansion that we're seeing with, IPOs, ETFs getting put out. A lot of people look at this as bullish, but this is the indicator that like we are towards the end of the bull market, because what is going to be the next narrative to pump the market after ETFs? Like nothing. I mean, people are still like, oh, but Cryptoviser, nobody's selling crypto. Nobody's selling their Bitcoin. They are. And as I explained, we saw Genesis wallet or what they call Satoshi era wallets unlocking 80,000 Bitcoin just recently in the middle of 2025. And people like the Bitcoin maxis were saying, oh, this is just to show that, they're not moving, they're not selling their Bitcoin. I'm like, no. If they're moving this Bitcoin from that long ago, that means they're selling it. And the movement of the money, right, the movement of the coins is letting the market know they're about to dump onto the market. And so a lot of people take that as like, oh no, Cryptoviser, you're just fudding. It's like, okay, don't take the warning. Boom. The Bitcoin OG with 80,000 Bitcoin seems to be selling. According to Look On Chain, they said in the past hour from when this tweet went out, they transferred 9,000 Bitcoin, $1 billion to Galaxy Digital, likely preparing to sell through their services. So yeah, people are going to say, no, Cryptoviser, nobody's selling. And I'm like, the US government sold. And by the way, this is not really a surprise because they told us last year in 2024 they were going to sell the Bitcoin. I guess people didn't believe what they were saying, but that's what they said. I'm going to show you that in a minute. But Senator Lummis posted this. She said, I'm alarmed by the reports that the US has sold off over 80% of its Bitcoin reserves, leaving just 29,000 coins. If true, this is a total strategic blunder and sets the US back years in the Bitcoin race. I would partially agree because we do have the MicroStrategies and the Bitcoin mining companies here in the US. So that is a large portion of the Bitcoin as well. I'm not as worried about that, but I understand what Cynthia Lummis is saying, right? And so U.S. Marshals revealed that the government now only holds about 29,000 Bitcoin worth $3.4 billion. Remember, people guesstimated that the government held 200,000 Bitcoin. But again, 2024, U.S. government preparing to sell 30,000 Silk Road Bitcoin on-chain data shows. July of 2024, U.S. government associated crypto wallet transfers $2 billion of Bitcoin. June of 2024, U.S. government sends 3,940 Bitcoin to Coinbase exchange. This was July. U.S. government moves $4 million in Bitcoin to Coinbase. Like, what did people think that they were just moving the coins again, like the 80,000 Bitcoin OG? Like he's just moving it for fun, just to no, they're moving the coins to sell the coins. And I don't remember who it was, maybe Gensler or Yellen said that they were going to sell the coins, and they apparently did. But the Bitcoin maxis are in disbelief. They're literally in disbelief. But again, this realization that the government actually did sell the coins and didn't hold on to them, it seems to me is like also another indicator of where we are in the cycle, because it just shows that, number one, right, companies are not following what MicroStrategy is doing. We saw that with GameStop. I mean, the Bitcoin maxis started going at GameStop because they didn't spend their entire $5 billion or whatever it was of cash. They only spent $500 million to buy Bitcoin. And the maxis were like, oh, they totally failed. They totally messed this up. And it's like, what? Maybe they're waiting for a dip. Maybe they don't want to buy at the top of the market, right? But the Bitcoin maxis don't want to hear that. And so the Bitcoin narrative, right? Like the macro narrative for Bitcoin stands. But the recent narrative that, oh, well, you know, the institutions are coming. No, they're already here. The ETFs are new. No, they've been here. Massive corporate adoption. Actually, no, there's not massive corporate adoption. It's like a few different companies of Bitcoin maximalists who are doing these Bitcoin treasury companies. But Bitcoin is not the trade anymore, right? And the thing is, we are still higher than where I called the top, right? I just call the macro top of the market around $100,000 to $10,000. We are higher than that. But even if you don't believe that that was the top, and you may not believe that this is the top, like, why would you not be taking any profits at all-time record highs, right? It doesn't make sense why a lot of people are viewing it as like, no, this is the beginning of the bull run when we are 15 months past the halving. Now, the thing is, most of you guys get it. Like, you're kind of on the same page and understand where we are in the cycle. Like, there is a rotation occurring here. And I don't understand how people are not seeing the rotation. The rotation is from Bitcoin to altcoins, Bitcoin to Ethereum. And these Bitcoin treasury companies, it's no longer the play. It's no longer the lucrative trade because Bitcoin is at all-time record highs and they're going to keep buying it regardless. So there's nothing new about that. But there is something new with other areas of the market, like Bitcoin mining companies, like these Ethereum treasury companies. Now, we're going to get to those in a minute, but I wanted to show you this because there are a few concerns that I do have about the Bitcoin mining space, which is also another indicator of where we are in the cycle. Because remember, the previous cycle, the Bitcoin mining companies, a lot of them did really, really well. But once the market started rotating out of the bull market into the bear market, right, the price of Bitcoin went down, the cost of energy went up, the cost of Bitcoin mining machines went down because we were going into a bear market. But meanwhile, all these Bitcoin mining companies, they pre-ordered and bought and prepaid for all of these Bitcoin mining machines at the top of the market in 2021, and they got delivered in 2022 when they were worth less, Bitcoin price was worth less, the cost of energy was higher. And so a lot of these companies went bankrupt. We're starting to see little cracks here. and not cracks necessarily saying that they're going to go under, but just saying the price may be overvalued and people are not looking at shares that are being diluted because there is dilution going on and shares being sold. This SEC filing was just recently reported from one of the directors. Basically, they sold massive quantities of Cipher mining stock to Bitfury, who is somehow an owner of Cipher mining or whatever. It doesn't matter. What matters is what they're doing, right? They're selling here about 50 million shares. And over from July 1 into the middle of July, we have seen massive quantities of these shares being sold on the open market. Right here, they sold 500,000 shares, 500,000 shares, 600,000 shares, 600,000 shares, 600,000 shares. I mean, they have to get to 50 million shares that they're going to sell on the open market. How is this positive for the stock? I mean, look at the stock price. We were at $2.3 billion, right? The average volume is about 40 million shares in the market. So the market can absorb it. But that is a lot of dilution. That is a lot of supply getting pumped into the market. The Bitcoin mining maxis will say, oh no, Cryptoviser, you're just fudding. You're just fudding. I'm like, fudding what? 50 million shares being dumped on the open market? That's a lot. And it's not the only company that I have concerns about. We are also looking at MIGI, Mawson Infrastructure Group. They just filed this SEC filing that says on July 8th, the board of directors of Mawson Infrastructure Group, another Bitcoin mining company, they actually Mawson, from my understanding, their hash rate is fairly high for the market cap of the stock, right? The market cap is $11 million. So they're like very close to just being effectively nothing, no company. But on July 8th, the board of directors of Mawson Group provided the CEO, Rahul, with notice of termination of his employment as CEO and president of the company effective immediately, in accordance with terms of his agreement, stating that the termination was for cause. In connection with the termination, he will forfeit outstanding equity of 4.5 million shares. Also on July 8th, the board requested that he resign from his role as member of the board in accordance with the termination. Then it also says on July 8th, the company filed a complaint with the court in the state of Delaware, captioned Mawson versus the CEO. They seek action to recover damages from the CEO arising of his alleged breach of fiduciary duties as a director, as well as alleged fraud. So, we're in a bull market, right? Potentially the end stages for the Bitcoin piece, but we're in a bull market, and this stock is at $11 million, and probably going much lower. And their CEO was fired, and they're suing the CEO. Like, this happens, right? These issues occur, but these are indicators of where we are in the cycle, right? Because these companies should be performing, and they're not. And then they're firing their CEO at the end of the cycle. And so these are just indicators that there are issues, right? It's not saying that this is widespread or that all these companies are selling, thousands of shares, but it's something to keep in mind, because people, they look at it and they'll say, oh, this is undervalued. And it's like, well, maybe it is. But if one company is having issues in the Bitcoin mining space and another company is selling massive quantity of shares into the market regularly, this is going to affect these Bitcoin mining companies. And then it potentially can affect other Bitcoin mining companies, because if the whole Bitcoin mining, company takes a dip, this could cause massive implications with more selling, more insider selling, more dilution, and it also kind of stifles the growth of these companies. So these are indicators that we're towards the end of the bull market, in my view, right? It's not an indicator alone, but when all of these things are put together, right? 80,000 Bitcoin being dumped on the market, the U.S. government sold their Bitcoin. People didn't listen to what the government said they were going to do. People are most bullish now, saying that there's new ETFs. It's like, for what? What new ETFs are popping up? Not really anything. Banks can custody Bitcoin. They already could. The U.S. has a strategic Bitcoin reserve. No, it does not. Powell's going to resign. Maybe he won't. Like, these are all kind of indicators. I want to know what you guys think. Like, do you agree with what I'm saying? Or do you think that I'm overthinking this or overanalyzing all of these little things? But I don't know. For me, the trade is not Bitcoin anymore. The trade is now Ethereum. And by the way, when Ethereum moves, the rest of the altcoins move for the most part. Granted, most of the Ethereum adjacent or Ethereum layer 2 coins, they're going to move in tandem for the most part with Ethereum. But we're seeing a lot of movement in the markets. And now Arthur Hayes envisions a highly anticipated monster altcoin season. And by the way, if you're up to this point in the video, don't forget to give the video a free thumbs up. So listen, guys, I think that it's pretty clear where we are in the cycle, right? I think that it's pretty clear that there is a transition into Ethereum and Ethereum adjacent ecosystems. And like I said, this is potentially a play in the markets that the second you hear about an Ethereum treasury company or something like that, you buy into it. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm saying this is a strategy that's out there. Now, there have been people who've been asking, well, Cryptoviser, how do we know? How are we supposed to? Well, you have to put in the work, right? You have to figure it out. You have to follow the right accounts that report on these things right away. And again, you don't have to be the first, but you don't want to be the last, right? So with these Bitcoin mining companies buying or selling, or these, like for instance, let's take BTCS, okay? Because they just became an Ethereum treasury company. And by the way, I'm going to be doing a full video, even though it's not going to perform. For some reason, Ethereum videos do not perform very well. Even though that also tells me this is the moment to make the play on Ethereum, right? Because nobody's paying attention to it. Everybody's still focused on, meme coins and Bitcoin. That's it. But if we take BTCS, for example, okay, BTS made the announcement that they were going to become a Bitcoin, an Ethereum treasury company, right? They made the announcement, I don't know, I guess July 7th, right? And then you can see the price went from 280 to 590, basically doubling. So you could have said, okay, you know what, I missed that. But I want you guys to remember, like, the news cycle lags. By the time Jim Cramer is talking about this on CNBC, it's going to be like a month or maybe multiple weeks after the announcement. So you don't have to buy immediately. You don't have to get in immediately. But the earlier you are in, the more likely you're going to have gains. But you also have to keep an eye out for pump and dumps, right? Because we've seen that already. What I think SharpLink did this. This is one of the other Ethereum treasury companies. It did a massive pump and then dump immediately. Yeah, right here. Perfect example of a pump and dump, right? We started at $2.90. It went all the way up to $80 and then immediately came down. If you see this vertical straight up, likely that you're going to have people taking profits at some point. But then once the profit taking comes, right, it's usually a sharp downfall. At that sharp downfall, that could be an indicator to buy. Again, focusing on the thesis of the company, focusing on the valuation, focusing on what their underlying holdings are versus their market cap. These are all indicators. I know SharpLink has, I think, $1 billion worth of Ethereum right now, and it's worth almost $4 billion. So there are going to be premiums. We're at the beginning. For me to think that, like, SharpLink, even after a pump and dump, is just going to stay down, even though they're buying Ethereum and Ethereum price is going up because all these companies are buying Ethereum at the same time, it would be foolish of me to think that, right? So I can't imagine this is bearish unless Ethereum is going to follow Bitcoin in a bear market, which it will eventually. But I think we have a little bit of time to pull some profits, take some money out of this. I mean, look, even if you didn't catch the first wave, you could have already been on the second wave, and you had June 13th all the way almost a month, right? So you had 3 weeks, June 13th to July 1, where the price didn't move. It just stayed. It stabilized after the pump and dump. So even if you bought in here, $9.35, you would already be up 300%. 300%. So I'm not saying FOMO in ever. But there are opportunities, I think, to kind of make an entry point, right? We've seen BTCS; it's been going basically straight vertical from well, really right before the announcement, $2 to about $7 or $8, so basically 3 or 4x in just about a week, but we haven't seen the dump yet. We may not see the dump, especially if Ethereum continues to go higher. But the point of this is, for me, I look at it like we are so early in this Ethereum treasury thing that even if 5 other companies come out and start buying Ethereum, I cannot imagine the price of Ethereum is going to stay stagnant, even if some of these buys are done off exchange, right, through private sales, which some of them have already been done. We've seen private sales already occurring with these Ethereum treasury companies, but I cannot imagine this early, just the beginning of these companies starting to buy, that we're not going much higher, right? This is my thesis. This is my strategy. I could be wrong, so you have to understand. Like, you have to do your own research, and that's part of this, right? You can't just say, "Well, Cryptoviser, your videos are delayed, so how am I supposed to get in immediately?" It's like, well, they're delayed for a reason, because I don't want you making decisions based on my videos. I want you using these videos to kind of formulate thesis and strategies for the market. You may not get in right away, but you could, right? You could follow the right accounts that are reporting regularly and say, and the minute it hits, you buy, right? And then it goes to the upside. But you guys have to remember, like, there is so much volatility right now. I don't, I think that as the Bitcoin price corrects, which it is going to at some point, right? Especially if we are at the top, which I think we are, Chimp Zoo thinks we are, a lot of people think that we are. As the trade becomes clearer that Bitcoin has topped out and that Ethereum is the play, what do you think everybody's going to start doing? They're going to start plummeting money into Ethereum and Ethereum layer twos and Ethereum adjacent chains and all of that. It's going to happen. And the more people take profits out of Bitcoin, the more you're actually going to see Ethereum pumping, because they're going to be playing with the house money at that point, potentially, if they're in 100% profit or not, right? Again, some of these stocks have done 300% in a week. In a week. And so everybody's hoping, like, oh, Cryptoviser, I hope XRP gets to $30. I hope that Cardano gets to $3. It's like, well, it may not. It may not. Because the play is not altcoins this cycle. It's just really not this cycle. The play is these stocks that are connected. But this potentially, right, this Ethereum rally potentially could help bump all of these legacy coins like XRP, ADA, Solana, Doge, Shiba Inu. We'll have to wait and see about that. But guys, it's not me just saying this and predicting this. It's what we're seeing on chain. Wu Blockchain reported that an address suspected to be associated with Arthur Hayes received 1.1 million Lido coins and 3,000 Aave coins from Flowdesk, with a combined value of $2 million, suggesting a possible over-the-counter purchase of Ethereum DeFi blue chip tokens by the man himself, Arthur Hayes. And one thing about Arthur is, if he's bullish on something, he's buying, like, straight up. And this is one of the reasons, I love the transparency. We're also seeing, according to Whale Alert data, about crypto market maker Cumberland transferred 44,000 Ethereum worth approximately $152 million to Coinbase Institutional. And what is Coinbase Institutional? That's their institutional platform, right, for custody in crypto. And what is Cumberland? Cumberland, they provide the liquidity and institutional investors seek to safely and efficiently capitalize on opportunities in the crypto asset space. So they're a deep liquidity provider. And apparently, they found some deep liquidity of 44,000 Ethereum and moved it into Coinbase Institutional. So to me, that says an institution bought, moved it into Coinbase for custody. The trade is already underway. By the time you're watching this, the trade is already at least 30 or 40% underway. Like you have to understand, like these things are going to happen so rapidly in the market because most people think like the price moving higher or moving lower, this is going to happen over the course of years. Well, yeah, if you're zoomed out that far. But in those years, you're going to have massive volatility. I mean, we can go from Bitcoin to 50,000, then back to 100,000, then to 70,000, then to 150,000, right? We could have those kind of swings. What are you going to do in those swings? And how are you going to be able to identify when those swings are happening, underway, and ending? Again, what we're seeing is the Ethereum trade is underway, which tells me the Bitcoin trade is the opposite, overway, underway, overway. It's going away, right? Because the trade is now Ethereum, and then the trade is going to be something else after. What it's going to be, I don't know. Maybe it'll go back to Bitcoin. Maybe it'll go to other altcoins. I don't know. We have to really read the market so that we can figure out what's going on. And so Bankless's Ryan Adams said the Ethereum bet this cycle is institutional. And I agree. By the way, retail is not going to move the markets as much as people think it is. It'll maybe move the meme coin market, but it's not moving Bitcoin and Ethereum with trillions of dollars of value. He says the crypto bull market has been defined by one thing: institutional flows to Bitcoin. Bitcoin caught a bid as an institutional grade asset this cycle. This unlocked capital pool in the largest capital pool in the world and propelled Bitcoin to $2.5 trillion, and it's going higher, he says. Because of Bitcoin's explosive growth and dominance, people started to assume Bitcoin would be the only institutional grade asset. We didn't. We knew they were going to get into Ethereum because once the Bitcoin trade is over, which it is, what are they going to do? They want to still make money, so they're going to look for the next best thing. So what's the next best thing? Ethereum. So once the trade is over, they were moving to Ethereum, and they're now moving to Ethereum. So what does that say? Where we are in the cycle. Exactly. It means the trade is underway. Anyway, he says narrative follows price. Could be price follows narratives. But anyway, as a result, buyers sideline the second largest crypto asset, Ethereum, and the networks leading on tokenization, stablecoins, and bank ledger chains like layer twos. They sidelined Ethereum, even while the institutions continue to build on Ethereum. Stablecoins hitting all-time highs, real-world assets growing fast with Larry Fink, BlackRock, talking about tokenizing the world. Robinhood following Base in launching a layer 2, the wealth of millennials and Gen Z secured by Ethereum. Then something strange happened, he said. Joe Lubin launched SharpLink. A few weeks later, Tom Lee launched BitMiner. Well, he didn't launch it, but he launched it as a Ethereum treasury company. And Peter Thiel now owns 9% of BitMiner Immersion Technologies. For the first time, Ethereum, the asset, had bulls in traditional media and Wall Street talking about Ethereum as a reserve asset, backing it up with skin in the game. The most bullish thing for Ethereum is to be understood. He said, we're just 1 month into the horse race between half a dozen Ethereum treasury companies trying to buy Michael Saylor levels of ETH. Some of the largest haven't even launched yet. And by the way, I have been hearing rumblings about this as well. I've been hearing a lot of rumblings that there are other companies that are planning to get in the game and buy Ethereum and potentially do it with debt. And so maybe large companies, maybe small companies that are just going to become Ethereum treasury companies. But again, the point is that you want to be able to capitalize on these moves and capitalize on the inflows that we're going to see. And there's a lot of ways that you can do that, but you have to do a little bit of research to figure that out. In the background, by the way, if everybody knew, then it wouldn't be a trade, right? That's why you have to figure out what people are not talking about. Ethereum, layer twos, Ethereum adjacent chains. Nobody's talking about that. You buy into it, and then when people start talking about it, boom, it moves higher. In the background, Ethereum ETFs are painting numbers, according to Ryan. He said the ETH ETF flows exceeded $717 million, the largest day in Ethereum history. This is what institutional demand looks like. There's many investors still sidelines. After 4 years of lackluster price performance, many lost conviction in Ethereum. Even now, we're still at $1,200 down from the all-time highs back in 2021. But maybe all they needed was patience. Well, no, the Ethereum maximalists needed patience, and now it's finally coming to fruition, right? If Ethereum is the next institutional-grade crypto asset, then multi-trillion Ethereum is pre-programmed. The sideliners will be forced to catch up. The bet for Ethereum is simple. Institutional demand is the driver. Ethereum is the next institutional asset. Tom Lee said it's the best. Ethereum is the next Bitcoin. And I'm not disagreeing. I think that when we're talking about where we are in this stage of the cycle, the only trade right now is Ethereum. I mean, there's obviously other trades, but I'm saying like the top level trade is not Bitcoin anymore. It's Ethereum. Bitcoin will become, it's not going away, right? But the shine, the spotlight is moving to Ethereum. Let Ethereum have a little bit of a chance, right? I mean, that's literally what the market is doing. It's not just me saying this. Trump's World Liberty Finance bought $10 million in Ethereum. According to Nansen data, the Donald Trump-backed World Liberty Finance purchased $10 million worth of Ethereum. The purchases coincide with the asset experiencing hefty price surges. If we look at World Liberty on Arkham, there's a lot of discrepancies between the different sites that are tracking World Liberty Finance, but you can clearly see here that there was, in the last couple of days, definitely a lot of movement of money. So I'm just going to take the article for what it says of 10 million in Ethereum. And we'll be continuing to track this wallet because I would imagine they're probably going to get into other Ethereum-based coins as well. And by the way, the selling is not just happening in Bitcoin. Ripple co-founder Chris Larson's crypto wallet transferred approximately $26 million worth of XRP to Coinbase. It remains unclear whether the funds have been sold. They've been sold, guys. For sure, they've been sold. But since the beginning of the year, the wallet has transferred a total of 106 million XRP. And what do you think he's doing with it? Ripple is telling you they are selling their coins. Chris Larson is moving his coins to Coinbase. I don't see how people are bullish on XRP. I really, really don't, based on these tokenomics, right? The technology may be there, their business may be there, the usage may be there, but the dilution from the selling is ongoing and it's not going to stop, right? Because only 60% of the supply is out and the rest of the supply is owned by Ripple and they're going to keep selling it. And then on top of that, you have other founders like Chris Larson selling their coins. So we're already up. I want you guys to keep this in mind. In the last 1 year, we are up basically from about 60 cents to $3, so about 5x. And if you go to the cycle low of about 40 cents, it looks like 40 cents. Let's look at 2023. Yeah, 36 cents. We're basically 10x there already. So XRP is already doing a 10x, and it's the third largest crypto. And you have massive selling from insiders and Ripple themselves. How is this bullish? Maybe I'm missing something, but I don't think that I am. If I am, let me know down below. What am I missing? Moving right along, Sonic Labs. This is internet computer competition, by the way. Sonic Labs has announced plans to launch Spark, an AI development platform that enables users to build and deploy Web3 applications using natural language without any programming knowledge. Spark is powered by Google's Gemini. Users can complete the entire process, including smart contract creation, front-end development, and deployment directly in your browser. So I don't really know that much about Sonic or their technology or development. What I do know is that we've been following Internet Computer Protocol for quite a while, and specifically talking about caffeine AI more recently with the self-writing internet, as Dfinity calls it. But there's concern that maybe this, I was originally under the impression that the AI was actually on-chain and computing on-chain. Then we found out that Caffeine AI is a large language model that is not on-chain, but it deploys the dApps it creates on-chain. And the Internet Computer Blockchain hosts those apps or websites or whatever it is. But the large language model isn't even Internet Computer owned or property. It's Dfinity's, right? So it's really just a large language model off-chain that allows the creation of programs. But we're actually starting to see a lot of companies like Sonic launching large language models that do very similar or the exact same thing, maybe not on a blockchain. And so is is the AI narrative a little overhyped? That's the question we got to ask. I don't know the answer to this question yet. I mean, I'm still bullish on internet computer, but it kind of sparks the question. So what is Spark? Sparks the question, Spark. Anyway, Spark is an AI-powered development platform that lets anyone build and launch full-stack Web3 apps, no coding required. From DeFi protocols to NFT marketplaces, Spark translate your ideas into smart contracts, front ends, and live deployments using only natural language. Just describe your vision, and Spark builds it. And effectively, this is exactly what Internet Computer launched with Caffeine AI, unless I'm missing something. And that's totally possible because I'm an investor, not an engineer. So there's a lot there. But here's the thing. Just because Caffeine AI may not be like some revolutionary Internet Computer only project or product, it doesn't mean that Internet Computer is not going to succeed or that Caffeine AI is not going to succeed. In fact, having competition is actually great because if there's no competition, there's no actual incentive to do better. But if you have competition, it forces both sides, you and your competition, to do better and make better products and make more user-friendly products, because otherwise they're going to choose the other product. And so competition is actually good. And I want to make that very clear. And Internet Computer, the AI capabilities are already being used. IC Terminal, Internet Computer Terminal website says ICP burn surges during the self-writing Internet showcase. Internet Computer's daily burn jumped to 17,000 Internet Computer Protocol coins, which is almost $100,000, likely driven by the real-time usage of Caffeine AI during the Internet Computer Summit in the middle of July in San Francisco. The main stage demonstrations and experience pods push the network activity sharply higher. So yeah, the on-chain data shows what is going on. And what we were talking about just a little bit earlier about the App Store, the Caffeine AI App Store allows users to clone apps with different licensing models. Depending on the license, the original creator of these apps should have the option to get revenue share of all the clones that they monetize, or clones to pay a fee in order to pull updates from the OG creator. Whoa, I didn't even think about that. The user said, I still support full open source models where everything can be free. But if someone is incentivized to make a new Salesforce on Caffeine AI, they need to have a way to make revenue. There should also be licenses where original creators disable cloning to protect the IP. Here's the deal, guys, in the world of AI. You can't. The AI, if it understands like how to code an app or a program, there's no way to stop it, right? It's the same thing like with art. Like you can just change the art a little bit and then say it's yours. So that's something to keep in mind, right? That there is going to be a lot of copycats. I mean, potentially even the large language models are just going to be copying what other large language models, and eventually the AIs are going to talk to each other. So one AI is going to go to another AI and say like, hey, how do I do this? And then the AI will teach them, and then now they know everything that the other AI did. So it is very difficult for these AI companies, and that's what we're seeing across the board. AI companies have a very hard time figuring out how to monetize what they're doing and make it sustainable. And that's, I think, going to be a big challenge as we move forward. But at the end of the day, where we are today in this cycle is there is a lot of selling going on, and there is a lot of liquidity coming in. And when the liquidity is coming in, people are selling their coins. And so we are 15 months post-halving, which historically marks the end stages of the bull market. And I would like people say, well, Cryptoviser, what should we do? You're saying it's the end of the market, it's the top of the market, but then you're most bullish on Ethereum. Part of the end stages of the bull market is the volatility. And part of the trades is trading the volatility. You cannot marry your bag. You have to be able to look at some of these trades, not all of them necessarily, but all the trades that you're making towards the end cycle is just a trade. Right? I want to get in at Ethereum like we were talking about last month, right? Again, going back to what we were talking about earlier, people are saying, Cryptoviser, like, how do I know? How do I know? When do I want to time it correctly? It's like, I've been telling my viewers for over 1 month 2 months, maybe even 3, the Bitcoin price has topped. It may not be the exact tippy top, but whether we're at $105,000 or $120,000, it's not really that big of a difference if you're looking for a top signal, because you don't know where the top is going to be. So if you wait till 120 and you're maybe waiting till 125,000, maybe we won't hit 125,000 and you're only $5,000 away from taking profit. That's ridiculous, right? And so the trade right now is Ethereum, and Ethereum is probably going to pump massively, right? Maybe 4,000, maybe 5,000, maybe even $10,000, maybe even higher than that. But at some point, there's going to be profit taking in Ethereum as well. And then that profit taking is going to move into other coins, potentially some of the other altcoins, potentially back into Bitcoin. And then that will start going up. But at this part of the cycle, the smart people, the smart money are trading the market. That's it. Trade, you get in, you get out. Get in, get out. Get in, get out. And so make sure you guys do your own research, formulate your own investment thesis, your own investment strategy, and hopefully it will work out. Not every trade will work out, but hopefully your overall portfolio will continue to rise over the course of time, and any losses that you take will be offset by some of the gains. Invest responsibly, do your own research, and crypto on.